Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to read through the full article here. It is fairly short. It is a very grim subject. It involves the rape and sex trafficking of a 14-year-old girl. Extremely heinous. I'm going to go through the details, then I'll say a few words for whatever they're worth. Not a great deal. There is a link in the description, and if you do appreciate the coverage of this topic, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. But let's go through the details to begin with. A 62-year-old man has been charged with raping a 14-year-old girl in a subway bathroom and then trafficking her to multiple men the next day in an alleyway. So this scumbag raped the girl and then trafficked her the next day to multiple men. A Manhattan grand jury indicted Glenn Johnson on charges of sex trafficking of a child, first and second degree rape, as well as criminal sexual act. Prosecutors said the ordeal began on March the 9th when the girl, a runaway, took an Amtrak train to Penn Station in New York, where she happened to run into this scumbag, Glenn Johnson, who subsequently raped her. The following day, the scumbag rapist took her to have sex in an alleyway with different men. At least one man paid to have sex with her, with a 14-year-old girl. The district attorney said that the rapist stayed with the child constantly, giving her food and shelter, buying her lingerie, making her watch pornography. After the alleyway, the scumbag rapist took the girl back to Penn Station, where he walked hand in hand with her, as if they're in a relationship of sorts, until an Amtrak police officer recognized her from a missing poster. So well done, that police officer. The scumbag racist fled the scene but was later arrested. He already had a level 2 sex offender designation, and he has also appeared on a New York police officer's list of repeat offenders. So he's a known repeat sex offender, 62 years of age. Glenn Johnson raped a 14-year-old girl and then trafficked her to multiple men the next day in an alleyway. So, of course, full condolences to the victim, the 14-year-old girl. We hope that she gets all of the support that she needs, emotional, psychological, physical, medical. We hope that she is able to move on from this incident. I'm not in a position to start imagining, how possible that is. I just hope that it is for her. I hope that she doesn't go wild, because and please don't think this is in any way meant to be disrespectful, but my very vague understanding is that victims of sex abuse, perhaps in this particular kind of nature, I don't really know what I'm about to say, but they can react in a way where they become reckless, perhaps in regards to criminality, perhaps in regards to drug use, perhaps in regards to sexual promiscuity. And so I believe that's a danger that this 14-year-old girl would be at risk of, lashing out to the world in a reckless fashion, perhaps stemming from a lack of self-esteem. I'm kind of guessing at this point. But anyway, I've made that point in a very rubbish way, but we pray for her to get all of the support that she needs. So just one aspect that I want to comment on. Obviously, the rapist is an absolute fucking scumbag, and we hope that they get exactly what they need, which is permanent incarceration. But also, one of these aspects which really boggles my mind, and I get the sense that it's kind of overlooked, not focused on, and it really ought to be one of the focuses, and that is seemingly this guy, this rapist, had no problems in finding multiple men to have sex with this 14-year-old girl. He seemed to find You know, this didn't seem to be difficult for him to track down men that were happy to have sex with a 14-year-old girl, at least one of which, paid. I mean, to me, that's what boggles my mind. You know, how bad are human beings? How bad are male human beings? I don't want to become too much of a misandrist. I'm a male. I like being a male. I think males are good. But seemingly there are a lot of fucking scumbag males out there that are willing, at a drop of a hat, they want to have sex with children, a 14-year-old girl, who I have to presume it would be blatantly obvious is a sex trafficking victim. You know, she's being held against her will, she's been kidnapped, whatever the case might be. It would be blatantly obvious that, number one, the girl is too young, and number two, she's there against her will. She's in forced prostitution. And yet, seemingly, this guy was able to find plenty of customers, you know, some of which non-paying, to have their abuse of this child. And that kind of disgusts me. That indicates to me, and I've read similar things to this, you know, I mean, if you look at these, if you think about, well, the term human trafficking, I believe, is misused. I think you have voluntary prostitutes that, you know, some authorities describe their activities as being human trafficking, which I don't feel is entirely correct when they're voluntary. When the adults are knowingly and purposefully and voluntarily selling their bodies, I don't think that should be considered human trafficking or sex trafficking to me. That's a misuse of the term. That's a muddying of the waters. But in this type of regard, where people are being held against their will, in some instances, the victims, and they could be children, they could be adults, they could be boys, they could be girls, they could be men, they could be women. But in some instances, they're literally chained. They're literally in hovels. And yet, the sex traffickers are able to find a stream of willing customers, which I presume almost all of which will be male. And that really fucking freaks me out. And this case freaks me out mostly for that reason. I mean, it's, of course, I don't wish to take away from the heinousness of the fact that this guy is a rapist of a 14-year-old. But in addition to that, he was willing to force her into sex trafficking and to force prostitution. But, like, to me, the weirdest aspect is that there's seemingly so many men out there in the world. This happened in New York. Okay, New York has its issues, has plenty of issues, sure, granted. Not going to deny that, but it's still New York. It's still what once was considered the most civilized city in the whole fucking wide world. Wasn't it? Or close to that. And yet you have this level of depravity. Scratch the surface and there it is. This is scary that this scumbag was able to find so many willing, I'm going to use the word punters, but Johns, so easily. It's scary. I think I've made my point, so I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. If you appreciate the coverage of this topic, please like, comment, subscribe, and take care.